Good morning, everyone from beautiful California. Good afternoon, Europe, and good evening, Asia. We are going to have our first Wave Global panel from Westcliff University, Irvine. We have our three guests for this panel. Dr. Massimo Bao, Senior Associate Professor in Family Businesses and Ownership from Sweden, Jönköping International Business School. We have Dr. Azita Shahsavari from Washington, D.C. She's a doctor in clinical corporate, she's a hematologist in clinical corporation. And we have Mr. Abtin Vaziri. Mr. Vaziri is a senior mortgage loan officer with significant experience in entrepreneurship and SBA loans. I'm Professor Salami. I'll be your host for this event, which is the first Wave Global Live panel. But before we go there, I will let Mr. David Zhu, Director of Strategy and Business Development, from Westcliff University, to give you his speech and introduction for the event. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Salami. It's not much of a speech, but yeah, my name is David Zhou. I'm the Director of Strategy and Business Development here at Westcliff University. We launched this club, Wave Club called Westcliff Alliance for Venture Entrepreneurs. Actually, thanks to Dr. McKinney, who's also on the call, to creating that name. And we just wanted to thank everyone for joining our first event. Big thanks to Professor Salami for putting the event together, to get the speakers together, and also the rest of the Westcliff staff as well to help put this event together. And in this global event, actually, since I personally am based in Singapore, so it's actually midnight here, but we have all over the world from 9 a.m. in the West Coast all the way somewhere in Europe as well. So I just wanted to get you guys, everyone, to know that this club is just we launched it for the students to grow entrepreneurship at Westcliff University. So we really hope that you guys enjoy the event and support the club going forward. If you have any interest, any further questions, or find out more information, obviously in the event there's wave@westcliff.edu. You can email there, and you can have any questions, can ask us later. Please enjoy the event. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Mr. Zhu. Okay, so the panel will go like this. We will have 1 hour question and answer between the speakers of the panel, and then after 1 hour is over, we'll go to question and answer, and any of the audience are more than welcome to ask any questions that you might have, but please private text message me on Zoom, so I put you on the list for the questions. And also please type in your question as well, so I know who has the question, and then I'll let you open the mic and ask your question. That would be after our conversation and the panel with speakers is over. All right, Dr. Massimo Bao, how are you, sir?
Hello, and good morning. Actually, yeah, it's evening here in Sweden, but very nice. How does it feel to see the background of Jönköping, Nima?
Yes, me and Dr. Bao, we studied at the same university. Actually, I studied at that university. We met at that university.
Yeah.
So many years ago, 2008, 2009, I guess that was the year.
10 years ago, actually. I was PhD candidate at the time. Yes.
Very true, very true. We are so pleased having you for this panel. Dr. Bao, on your quote, you said, "Now it is time for sustainable business models that look at the long term." Mm-hmm. So what was your thought period when you came up with that quote?
Well, I would say that it's mainly related with my topic of interest and research. As you said before, I am associate professor on family business and ownership. That actually is a core topic also for my business school. We ran the largest research center in Europe on family businesses. And when we talk about family businesses, we talk about businesses that can be as small as the local shop that you can see on the street, but also as big as Walmart in the United States, IKEA here in Sweden. So the logic is how much the family can affect the way in which you do business in the moment in which the family is the owner of the business. The first thing that we learn actually when we talk about family ownership is the fact that there is a long-term orientation that is totally different compared to other kind of firms. Compared to firms that are controlled, for example, by venture capitalists that have interest of immediate return of their investment. Well, this kind of logic is very much in line actually with what we are observing now in a situation of a crisis, because in a situation like this, what gets important is in which way you actually are running your business, you're designing your goals, and your goals can be actually on the one side financial, and there is all the right to have financial goals, but on the other side it's important to understand how this business actually relate with the local community in which you are embedded, relate with the environment in which you operate, and etc. And these are all elements that call for a reflection upon what are the businesses and in which way they're going to actually also deal through time. Because the long-term survival of the business stands in the values of those that run it. And here we have a discussion about what does it mean to deal with a crisis, because dealing with a crisis, it also means that accepting risks, taking debts, dealing with uncertainty, but also actually dealing with a loss that might be related with the time in which you are operating. So what is the choice between shutting down a business or continuing? What are the reasons?
We will go there, Dr. Bao. We will go there. I have some couple of detailed questions for you. I just was curious about the quote that you have put for the.
Yeah.
So I just wanted our guests to know about that. But thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I'll get back to you.
Yeah. No, just to add to that point. So sustainability for me is a concept that is very much broad. It's not just environmental sustainability, but is sustainability in multiple perspectives.
Very true. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Dr. Azita Shahsavari, so you mentioned in your quote, keep calm and carry on. The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Would you please let us know why you came up with that quote for the event? You are muted. You need to, yes, thank you.
Okay. I'm okay now? I don't know what's up.
Yes. Everything is good.
Good. First, thank you, Professor Salami and Westcliff, for having me and considering me to be part of your panel. It's an honor. Yes, I think it's time to be calm and stress-free, for sure. I know there are lots of anxiety, lots of fear out there, especially for after all this extended lockdown. Everybody's so excited and anxious at the same time to go out back to normal. However, there is a new normal, is a new life for all of you guys out there. And it's all about compromising and adjusting to these new rules. So don't be scared. Just get used to new life. Learn the new rules, learn your new life, and just take care of yourself. The only fear out there is for us in medical health, because we have lots of unanswered questions, uncertainties, but however we have achieved a milestone, and I can talk about it later. But you guys stay safe, and my most faithful advice to you guys, taking care of yourself, boost your immune system, and try to follow all these preventional protocols out there. If you guys taking care of yourselves, you are helping us in healthcare to take care of all critical patients keep our ICUs empty, have enough vents or emergency room for critically ill patients.
Thank you
So,
so much, Dr. Shahsavari.
We're
Appreciate that. We will get back to you with the question. So
sure.
be ready for that.
Oh, don't ask me hard.
All right, I'll go to Mr. Vaziri. Mr. Vaziri, you mentioned in your quote, the illusion we succumb to is that by not moving, we are avoiding risk. So would you please explain why you thought that that's important? You're muted, Mr. Vaziri. Thank you. Still mute. Still, I can't hear
Okay,
you.
there you go.
Yeah, now it's good. Now it's
All right, good. Sorry about that. Yeah, so basically, what the illusion that we succumb to, as I said, is that by standing still or maybe not doing anything, we're staying safe, right? And so the composure needed in these times is basically being able to see beyond the herd fear, if that makes sense. And I'm not saying that the fear is not real, but you have to be able to have the composure to see beyond it. And basically, what I meant by standing still is not looking beyond the event that's happening or the fear that's going on, and looking for that opportunity. And I'm talking from a business standpoint only, but the opportunities that maybe that are created due to what's going on at this point. So that's kind of what I meant. It's just to be able to still stay aware for the opportunities that come up due to the change in events or markets that come about due to these events. These, I guess you could say, pandemics or maybe, I guess, economic events and that kind of thing. So.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. We'll get back to you for the questions as well. All right, I
Thank
will
you.
start the panel's question with Dr. Shahsavari. So, Dr. Shahsavari,
Sure.
we are talking about COVID-19 opportunities and threats for entrepreneurs and what we shall do during this time. But how do you see the situation? Is there going to be a vaccine? Is there a cure for that? How long shall we wait for this to happen? How do you see this from your own perspective?
Actually, as I knew since Monday about this Moderna new mRNA 1273 news, we are also excited because they're talking about a new technology, which is a converting serology. And this is something very new to the board. And there are lots of hope, and apparently all this manufacturer is going to start producing the vaccine even before they went through all these different clinical phases. Apparently they're going to start a new clinical trial in July, and by the end of next year, they are hoping to start the third trial. But these manufacturers decided to put a risk and put their probably lives in jeopardy and producing the vaccine. However, we are not sure if this vaccine is going to be effective. It's going to be, there are lots of things. Safety, reliability, effectiveness, and mass production in large scales, and economy efficient. There are all factors that we have to consider about the vaccines. Right now, I know approximately 120 research biotechs and companies are worldwide trying to develop SARS-CoV-2 vaccine. Some of them are in the clinical evaluation phase. Some of them are in preclinical phases. And yesterday I was listening to WHO live conference, and they were stating something very important to me. And they said there are acceleration to develop the vaccine, but it doesn't mean there is any shortcuts. So they have to ensure these vaccines are going to fit all the safety and clinical criteria. So that makes me concerned about the vaccine. So I'm sure something is coming up because this is a global, in my whole life in medical field, I never witnessed something like this. This global effort supports collaboration. This is amazing. It makes me sometimes goosebumps because I never seen anything like this to battle this virus globally and worldwide, and all the supports that I receive from peers. So every day is a new lesson for us. If you ask me like 1 month ago, probably I would be very disappointed and I cannot give you any promise. But today I'm very hopeful and optimistic. But my whole probably hope is having the targeting medicine and treatment for this
All right.
monster.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Hopefully your optimism works for everyone. So we can enjoy that vaccine anytime, like pretty much soon. Thank you so much. Dr. Bao, as Dr. Shahsavari mentioned, looks like there are some efforts happening and companies are working on that. But I have some information in front of me which says that even though there might be a vaccine, actually so many people don't believe in them. Mm-hmm. Meaning that even in the United States, we have people, they don't believe in vaccines, and even though there is vaccine for, let's say, influenza, for common cold and influenza, but they don't use it, even for so many other diseases. So if there is a vaccine and some people are not using it because of religious reasons, because of their own belief system, still there are some people who will not use that. So by considering all these facts that we have so far, how do you see the future of our jobs? Do you think that the businesses will keep affected by this pandemic? What are your thoughts about the future of our jobs?
It's a bit a crystal ball question. I would say in general, we can actually simply take some basic assumptions. The first one is the fact that this corona crisis is putting in doubt what is our concept of freedom of choice and what are the boundaries of this freedom. In particular, what is the distinction between individual freedom and collective freedom? Because the collectivity has the right to be healthy. And such a freedom might actually put in doubt what is the individual choice. I would say that if you take the perspective of what is happening in Europe, for example, a country like Germany has already made statements that will require a test of health for people that are going to work in the company. Companies need to have healthy people that will not infect others. People that are getting infected through time might actually block the production. And production is the first element that needs to be restarted, because industrial production is the element that carry on the GDP of most countries. And without that, it's macroeconomically a problem if you don't move on in that way. I would say that this opened up a big question mark on the other side about the access to healthcare. Because access to healthcare, the cost of the healthcare, it's related then also to the cost of the social cost that a state will have to support. And the social cost of a state that are supposed to be supported are related to the taxation, and taxation is related to productivity. So as you see, everything is actually a kind of snake that bites its tail, because we observe that there are so many different elements altogether. And at that point, for example, aspect related with tracing the contagions might actually also be related to the possibility of people to go out and work. Now, there are some kind of works that can be converted to smart working. the meeting that we are having now could have not been possible without a smart working approach. But on the other side, this cannot be applied to any kind of job, and not to any category of job. This might even create even more social distances, not just the physical distances, but economical distances among classes, between those that can have access to smart working and those that cannot. And companies that will be able to revert part of their activities to this logic of smart working or not. But then we go back to the logic of production, because line production need to have some kind of physical involvement in specific workplaces. And then you go back to the point of what is actually the freedom of a person to say, I want or not to be vaccinated, for example. Without entering in any logic about the vaccination will work or not, without entering the logic that you might have the right or not to not use it because of religious logics or health reasons. I would say that it's everything related at the end to macro perspective, and this macro perspective is both from a sociological perspective but also from an economical perspective. So I would say that the first thing that we are observing already now is a question mark about what are the boundaries of freedom. And from there, we can start actually a discussion about all the rest.
Very true. I totally agree with you. So how is the situation in Sweden? Because as far as I know, Sweden has you guys did not practice the lockdown as other countries did. So Swedish system was they went through the Swedish lockdown, which was a little bit looser than what we have in the United States and other countries. How did it work out for the industry over there?
Okay, Sweden is a specific model. Sweden has decided to adopt a totally different approach compared to all the other European countries, including the Nordic countries that are at the border with Sweden. The logic that was done, it was that in the early stage of Corona spread, the Prime Minister said that most of the behaviors that other European countries were taking were linked by individual fear and not scientific data that were supporting a certain decision. That was actually an argument that he made. On the other side, such an argument, in a sense, has made all the other countries perceive that, okay, we are the stupid ones then, because we are the one that actually using the belly and not using the brain. So there is a big question mark if that choice was correct or not. What actually we have observed is simply the fact that Sweden has adopted a mild lockdown. So shut down actually invited those activities that were able to move remotely to adopt a smart working approach, closed the university facilities and schools for people above 16. Because the logic was you need to keep the school open below that age, otherwise you will not have the parents able to work in the essential industries, including healthcare. In a situation like this, they said we are not actually defeating the virus, we are not blocking the virus, we are slowing it down. And this actually is what we are observing now. If you look the diffusion curve, if you look the way in which the other European countries are moving compared to Sweden, you see that Sweden will have a long tail that will not be the same in other European countries. From an economical perspective, what you observe is that Sweden is currently the only country that, according to prevision, seems to have a positive GDP in the next 3 years. So Sweden actually is showing that because of that choice, because of an economy that was not entirely blocked, is going to grow, while most of European countries are in full loss already this year, and also most of them also for next year. As you can get from my accent, I live in Sweden, but I'm Italian. So I have also quite direct understanding about the situation in Italy. And I can say that there are most probably two opposite situations, two opposite models, those that have been adopted. For what concerns Sweden, at the end, I will say that it is hard to say if this choice was correct or not. From an economical perspective, it seems that it was a correct choice. From a health perspective, well, it's not my field and I cannot express an opinion about that. And I will say that we will only see the results, most probably 1 year from now, when we're going to really compare statistics about the death rate between countries. What we see now is that Sweden definitely has an higher death rate that most of European, definitely higher than all the Northern European countries. We have to see actually how long this will be, this long tail. You know, this long tail is also related to another aspect. Most probably most European countries will reopen the borders at the beginning of June. But there is a question mark if these boundaries, if these borders will be also reopened to Sweden or not, because of the choice of adopting a different model. I can say on the other side that most of Swedish manufacturing companies are exporting. And due to this fact, most of companies saw a decrease of orders above 50%. Because were the other countries that were not ordering products that Sweden were producing. So even when there was not a forced lockdown exercised by the country, it was the market itself to lock down many industrial activity of the country.
True, because they are all interrelated. If you can produce, but your neighboring countries cannot buy it from you, so the borders are closed already. So that totally makes sense. Totally makes sense. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. But I'll get back to you regarding this conversation. I have more questions for you. I want to go back to Mr. Vaziri. Mr. Vaziri, we have so many international students actually right now online, and they want to know if right now is a good time to take out a loan, because, well, as far as I see, the interest rates, at least in the United States, are too low. They are at the lowest possible, as I have remembered. So, is there any possibility for entrepreneurs who are international and they live in the United States and they wanna open up their business? Do you think that's the right time, or do you think it's the wrong time? What are your thoughts on that?
Can you hear me? Are you able to hear me?
Yeah. Yes.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. I mean, the cost of money is the lowest in my history that I've ever seen. And actually, if you want to go down a conspiracy theory route, one of the reasons that the U.S. government is able to throw trillions back into the market is because they're able to borrow at the lowest rates in history. So that said, right now we're also experiencing a refinance of debt, mortgage debt, at levels that are just almost unmanageable. So everybody is rushing to get that lowest rate money. So absolutely, it would be the best time to do it. And business loans tend to be a little bit higher than regular private loans. So now is the great time to take advantage of it. So absolutely, the opportunity would be there to do that. And then it is a good time. It's probably the best time. The question is whether you can keep the composure enough to be able to take that risk. Does that make sense?
Thank you. It does.
Yeah.
It totally does. Mr. Vaziri, is there any ways that international students can take out a loan?
So the way that the SBA works, so the way that if you are an international person or an international student, for example, you would have to show that you have some type of registered. The business loans in the U.S. are done by the I guess the profit or the gross revenue of your business rather than personal credit mostly. So it's the decisions are made on how long you've been in business and how much gross revenue you have. So it's a little different. So if you can establish a business in the U.S., which is fairly easy, you just register it, you would have to show that history. So as far as a U.S. or I guess international student, they would have to have some type of business registered in the U.S. to be able to get that loan. And if that can happen, then they would have to show a history of experience within that business, and then they can get that loan. If that's the process. Now the question is whether that international student has the ability, from an immigration standpoint, to be able to register a company in the U.S. And I'm talking, it's very easy to register a company in the U.S. It's literally with a couple $100, you can register a name, and then even if it's like not a brick and mortar type business, it could be an internet business. As long as you register the company and you show the revenue, that would be the process. And then you can pretty much get a loan from the SBA.
Thank you so much for the information. We'll get back to you for more information. My next question is for Dr. Shahsavari. Dr. Shahsavari, even some clinical jobs have been lost. For example, dentists. But some of the clinical jobs are perfectly fine and they're like safe because they have a lot of work. So what is going on right now? In that industry?
Yeah, actually, we all are affected by this. You cannot say we are all safe. Even the hospital labs like us, we were affected, because most of our incomes are from outpatient and elective tests. Outpatient is a big deal for the labs. Right now, what we are doing here is just testing COVID-19, and there are lots of, I'm not a person behind the budget or anything, but like even elective surgeries, hospitals have a big impact of this because elective surgeries had been cancelled. Cardiac surgery, there are big deals in the hospitals, cardiac surgeons, plastic surgeons, there are money makers. So they are not doing anything right now. It's not just in dentistries or ophthalmologists. However,
so what you're saying is that all those surgeries have been canceled, like heart surgery?
Had been canceled, but we are gradually back to everybody's even in dentistry industry is back, but it's a new word of industry, is a new word for dentistry. I had to cancel my dentist appointment immediately after the COVID, and when I called them, I said, "Oh, we are not sure. Maybe you can come." I said, "No way. I'm not coming to do anything over there. I'm not going to put myself in danger." But they finally called me. They canceled. They closed the office for like 2 months. But now they called me again, and they said, "Oh, we are ready. We have new policies." And if you go back to CDC site, there are wonderful protocols for there is, and they update their decision trees or protocols every single day. And every day you go there, there is a new protocols how to reopen the businesses, and healthcare is on the top of everything. And everything is back to us in the labs. Apparently, we are going to play a key role because everybody is going to test their patients, their staff, before they reopen their businesses. So this makes us nervous because we have to increase the capacity of testing and pushing the biomed companies to increase the accuracy of their testing, because some tests are not completely reliable to me. Right? At this time, we have lots of challenges for interpreting these results, and nobody knows really a clinical significance. However, there is a stage that I can see in probably few months that we can pass this stage and start like a clinical stage, moving to epidemiological stage to perform more serologic testing and estimate the immunity of our communities. And that's the very important goal for all of us in healthcare.
So what you're saying is that there is still some uncertainty, meaning that even the test results are not that trustable.
I don't say it's not trustable, but interpretation of the tests are, because we don't know that much. We don't know if patient is producing IgG antibody, does mean that patient is safe. Is not going to re-expose or it's not going to be reinfected, because we don't know, are there permanent immunity or there are just a temporary immunity. So we have all these IgG positive patients, and even the silent carriers. I have people here, they never even shows any symptom of even common cold, and their titer of IgG is high. And however, we have people with very severe symptoms, we cannot detect their antibodies. So there are lots of inconsistency here, and we are waiting for more information and guidance. However, every day, I have meetings with Abbott company every day, because we run the Abbott, analyzers and tests here, and there are the top of everything in here right now in this industry. And every day they are trying to increase because we need more sensitive and more specific tests to increase the the rate of true false positive and true positive and true negative cases. The more sensitive test, it means that we have more true positives, and the more specific test, it means that we can detect true negatives. So we have to increase both of these values in these reagents that we are running, and every single day they are trying to increase the accuracy of this test, and I was thinking maybe something Dr. Westgard, actually, maybe if I can find it, Dr. Stan Westgard is a director of clinical service of technology for Westgard company. And he addressed something a few days ago, and to me, it's wonderful. And he actually addressed this in his LinkedIn, actually, testing, and there are three important things to us: testing, tracing, and isolation. If we can do these three important things in the high quality, levels, then we can save. I think these are the only. And he said these. I'm sorry, I forgot to read his statement. And he said there are the only alternative to a mass lockdown or allowing people to suffer and die in unchecked outbreaks. And I believe every single test we perform buys a little teeny bit more freedom for you guys out there and to break these lockdowns. So testing is very important. And we need to emphasize structural protocols for our future testing.
Very true. Thank you so much for the information.
No doubt about it. Sure.
Thank you so much. I go back to Dr. Bao. So Dr. Bao, what Dr. Shahsavari is saying is that there are still problems out there. As we have learned through the business school, that's what entrepreneurs are looking for. They are looking for problems to turn them into opportunities, to address the new market. So basically, it looks like that there are some businesses that are changing their whole, the processes are creating value for their customers. So some people see it as a threat, some people see it as an opportunity. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that I would actually distinguish between opportunities related to short-term, short-term opportunity related to COVID. And in that sense, I would say that the opportunity for entrepreneurs were for those that were already ready before the COVID. And there we saw the boom of certain industry. We saw all those that were ready to do home deliveries saw steep growth. All those that were ready to online technology also. Planning today for dealing with the current crisis might actually not be the right way to be entrepreneur, because the time that will require actually to develop a new company that will deal with current problem might actually be too late, because those problems will be already solved by somebody that was already ready now. We can actually try to understand how long it will be, the time that will take to go back to a normality. We can actually discuss if it will be the same normality as before or will be a different normality. And in that sense, I would say that the entrepreneur that will be successful tomorrow will be the one that would have better understood how the future normality will look like. And the future normality is not the distortion of this specific moment in this month, but is how it's going to look like 1 year from now. Let's actually be quite honest and concrete. It depends. Are we offering a service that can be implemented in short term, immediately? Well, in that case, there might be an opportunity for a short way to create working capital that will actually provide opportunity for future growth. But on the other side, such an opportunity will be too much related to an investment done on today. So my point is actually, we need to understand how it will look like tomorrow. And when we talk about how tomorrow going to look like, we have actually to make a consideration about how big or small will be the market, how the different international market will be open or closed to each other, how much time it will take before going back to a situation of normality between international markets. Because the question mark also in the future will be related to also conflicts between countries for access to medical care, in terms of who's going to be the first country to get the vaccination. There are already articles in newspapers that talk about the different position of different countries. And we can just mention United States, but also UK did it recently, France did it recently, and so on. Of course, China. But this actually also means that we are playing with the rule of liberal markets, capitalism, but at the same time, the approach to deal with the crisis is very different in different countries, and where some socialistic perspectives are becoming much stronger in Europe, for example. And that actually goes totally against the principle of open market. But also statesmen like, for example, United States, America First, is actually a protectionist perspective. And protectionism is not in line with open markets. So when we talk about approaches to how it's going to look like the market 1 year from now, we have actually also to consider how open or closed will be those markets, how strong or weak will be the influence of the state in the way in which we're going to do business, which regulations might be in place or not for favoring that concept of freedom that I was actually mentioning at the beginning. So entrepreneurs is the person that is able to deal with it, and I would say that the future is actually in entrepreneurs. But what kind of entrepreneurial behaviors they're going to take, that's what we don't know yet. And that's actually what's going to make a successful or not successful an entrepreneur.
Very true. So what I'm getting from what you're saying is that some businesses might just get some short-term gains because of the situation, but we don't know if that's going to last. And there are some long-term planning for the businesses as well. So maybe if there's a transformation in the industry, maybe an entrepreneur can take on that. Is that right?
Well, that would be a perspective on a Schumpeter. So you're actually taking the logic that is the capacity of innovating that create a creative distraction that disrupt the previous paradigm.
Exactly.
From this kind of perspective, of course, we can say that. The question mark is that is this disruption caused by the capacity of dealing with an internal change, or is actually external? So to what extent actually we are able to deal with the external environment in the decision? and how much the external environment will affect enabling or destabilizing the industry, the possibility of dealing with complexity. I think that what we are observing is that industries that are asset intensive, so industry where fixed costs are very high, might actually risk to fail because the cost of the debt in these assets might be very high. At the same time, it's very hard to restart businesses like that. So we might actually expect that there will be a significant investment done by states, but also done by the same banks in order to support these kind of businesses, because they are actually too big to fail. Think about fly industry. Think about automotive. Think about all those kind of industries where the cost of production represent most of the cost of the product. In those kind of industries, I honestly would not expect a significant entrance of new players in the market, but I might expect that will be some consolidation. A merger between big companies might actually be forced by the need of simply distributing the loss and negotiating better treatment with state, etc. In industries on the other side where the service, the intellectual capital, the capacity of doing things, etc., is core, and I would say actually what we define often as a high technology industry or knowledge intensive industry, where the real value is represented by, let's say, the intellectual capital, we might actually see significant changes because there will be actually the capacity of dealing with the change. And there we're gonna most probably see players like, anyway, Amazon, Apple, Google reinforce even more their position of control, because we already see now in the capacity of developing application for tracing, be the only one able to provide you support for your home solitude. Well, these are actually companies that are making a lot of money and even more. So due to this capacity of playing, they actually be even more strong in the future.
Very true.
There might be an opportunity on the other side to start businesses that might be attractive to them because they will be most probably acquired very quickly and with also very high values.
So finding businesses that are working for those bigger companies that are actually
I would say that on the other side,
surviving.
And there is another side of the picture that might actually go back to a logic of sustainability, because I think that there is a huge opening for social entrepreneurship. And when we talk about social entrepreneurship, we talk about companies that produce value for society. And this actually can be B Corp, can be no-profit organizations. And let's actually be honest, running a no-profit organization doesn't mean to run a poor company. There are billions of dollars invested in those companies, and there are very high salaries also from paid to those that are running those kind of organizations. And I think that might actually represent on the other side size of a part of the business of the national industry in most countries that will be growing of importance. Might even be stronger, I would imagine, in the United States, where the state is not playing a strong role in the social support for individuals, compared to what is Europe, where most of these activities are in the hands of the state still today.
Very true. Thank you so much for the information. By the way, we will start our question and answer in a couple of minutes. That would be the last question for Mr. Vaziri that I will ask, and then we will go to question and answer. I have people lined up. They have questions for all of our panel speakers. I will call you guys one by one based on the names I see on my on the list, so you can ask your questions by yourself. You can just open up your mic and ask your question directly from our speakers. So, Mr. Vaziri, the conversation that a couple of days we had together, you mentioned that instead of talking about, as an entrepreneur, instead of talking about the things that you should do, actually there are things that an entrepreneur should not do. So what are those things that they should not do?
Wow. I don't think there is a list you can make of things you can't do, because how would you know? But the reality is, I think the opposite question. I don't know that we talked about what you should not do, but the reality is that you should just go move forward. Don't stand still and go for whatever it is that you think is going to do well in this environment. Because and I'm sorry I hope I'm not contradicting some of the physicians on the panel, but I think that this pandemic is, in my opinion, has created the illusion, back to what I was saying in my my quote there, but the illusion that there is can you hear me still? Yeah.
Yes,
so
yes.
The illusion that maybe we need to not do anything, right? So the reality is the same needs that were there prior are still there, and maybe even more so other things. But you don't need a magic bullet to get started, or maybe become an entrepreneur, that kind of thing. You can, as long as you've got the composure and the ability to, either raise the funds through the loans and, through the SBA, or however way you were going to get started. But the reality is the needs are still there of the people. And I think that most likely, and again, I don't want to contradict the physicians on the panel, but the reality is, I feel if you look at just data, that there's possibly a sort of emphasizing it's been overdone, I should say, in terms of the fear of not maybe even not doing anything. But I think entrepreneurs and businesses should continue to invest and take the risks in this environment. I don't think there's much of a difference. I don't think, have you Alibaba, right? Alibaba, the company. Mm-hmm. The last SARS pandemic is what catapulted them to being the almost $500 billion company at that time in 2013. So the reality is that there's opportunities, you just have to take them. And I think there's a quote from Warren Buffett that says there are more losses in the opportunities you don't take versus the opportunities you take and lose.
Very nice quote. I agree with you. So as I see on the list, actually, I was looking online, and there have been like so many companies that have started, as you mentioned. So many companies like Sony, even like huge corporations, they started at the lowest economic growth at the time period that they started their own business. So you think it's a huge, that's what you were saying, it's a big opportunity if you started right now. That's what you're saying.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, people are still alive and working and needing, right? So the all the same needs that were there prior to this are there still now. It's just, it's been masked with maybe some of the hype, not the hype, but the realities of the environment and the news and media and so on and so on. So, which I'm not saying is not true, but I'm saying to you that the needs are still there. So the opportunities are there. And to be quite honest, the reason why there's more opportunity is because less people are jumping into that pool, I should say. And so the point is, you don't need a magic bullet. You don't need to find that small gap in the market to be able to jump in. Just do whatever it is you were going to do, because that same need that was there prior to this is still there now. And actually, the pool is less crowded, if that makes sense, because less people have the composure to go forward. So, and as you said before, it's cheap. It's the cheapest time to get money. And money, by the way, lending rates are dictated by bonds, right? So when there's more demand for a debt product, rates will drop. Typically, people that tend to, or whenever you see bonds, when there's an interest in bonds and an investment in bonds, typically there's the illusion of something going wrong, because that's a safe market, right? The bond market. So when people pull out of a stock market, they usually put it in a bond market, and that's what causes rates to go down. And when there's a weakness in the government, it causes rates to go down. Now, I actually would argue that a lot of the monies that governments are pulling are as a result of the low rates. So the governments are investing, by pulling the money. I mean, U.S. has pulled almost $4 to $5 trillion to put back into an economy. They couldn't raise enough money just to give Medicare or, you know, medical insurance to anybody before. It was always, we don't have enough money, but all of a sudden $5 trillion showed up. So the reason is because of the rates. And so they're investing, they're borrowing. Why don't we?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I should talk to my mortgage advisor. Actually, I should talk immediately. But thanks a lot. Yeah, that's the time for it. That's the right time. Beautiful. I think we are almost at the time that we can start our question and answer with our audience and the panel speakers. I see the first question would be by Sai Raj. Sai, if you are online, you are all welcome to open up your mic and ask your question.
Again, thank you so much, Professor Salami, and everybody who actually been a wonderful part of this amazing procedure. I really like the fact that we're able to be educated in the field of business and administration, and also being able to understand the global perspective. So my question is to Mr. Vaziri. Again, you said it's actually once your company is registered, you have to show the revenue, and then you can actually will be able to get a loan. So I would like to know. Yes, my company is registered in the US, and I'm also been providing some making some revenue out of it. But I don't. I mean, and again, I'm an experienced clinician myself. So just looking in the opportunities along. Is there any? The question to you is: do we have to show the experience? And if we have to show it, how many years has to be, or is it based on the experience of the individuals who are part of it, or the experience of the person who is the CEO, or it's the amount of revenue which is generating? So if you can please answer, I will be happy to. No.
Mr. Vaziri, you are muted. You are muted.
Sorry, is that better? Okay, good. I mute when I'm not talking just to keep the noise out. So thank you for a question. Here's the deal. With SBA or any type of business loan in general, the way they determine your credit worthiness or your risk in lending you money would be how well you could possibly do in the future, right? So, and that's determined by experience and your documented revenue from the past. So, that's really it. Whereas private loans are strictly on how you've repaid your personal debt back. So the experience is documented by either showing, it's pretty easy to document, I suppose. You can show sales from previously, and, obviously you've been involved in the company, so that gives you that experience. And the second thing is paying taxes, filing tax returns. That also shows a return, profit and loss statements. So those are the sort of, I guess, documents you would need to be able to show either the experience or the income. Now, typically 2 years is what's needed in terms of revenue. And then what they do is they take that average of 2 years, and that's what they use to determine whether you have enough income to go forward. So they'll use things like that, the business revenue, and then if that's not enough, they'll use personal. And then there's the business plan of the future income. So 3 things: future income based off of business plan to qualify, and then also past income from the company, either through profit and loss statements or tax returns. Those are the income used to determine how much you would qualify for the amount of the loan that you're looking for. I don't know if that answered your question or not.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, but just one last thing: the experience has to be from the person that's borrowing the money. They don't care about CEOs and that kind of thing. It's whoever's going to be borrowing the money is who needs to show the experience.
Thank you so much, Mr. Vaziri and Sai. Thank you. The next question would be from Andy. Andy, you may open your mic.
Yes, Professor. Yeah, my question, well, first of all, that was really an amazing experience to be able to participate to this panel. So thank you for all the speakers and for Professor Salami, Professor Sharma. They made this possible, and the university. I have a very quick question. I am a business person, so I don't have a lot of I have actually zero experience in health. I try to educate myself as much as I can during this pandemic. So testing is really important, and Dr. Shahsavari mentioned this, and something that I don't understand. There are false negative, and which I do understand that. But is it possible there are false positive? So for this, I mean, you test positive and you are not sure that you are actually positive, or when you test positive is 100%. And another question is like, I heard that you mentioned a treatment. I heard that there have been many treatment and many trials. If you can maybe explain a little bit more about this treatment and where we are at, that would be wonderful.
Sure.
Thank you.
Actually, I wish I can answer your question 100%, but by the time being, we know there are false negatives. The rate of the false negative, actually this is based on few, like last week statistic we performed, and this is based on brainstorming with all different companies, different peers, laboratory health, public health laboratories and hospital laboratories. Yes, so far we see like 30% false negatives accompanying and almost 10 to 15% false positives. But these numbers can be...
Dr. Shahsavari, did you say 30? 30?
30, yeah, maybe more.
Oh my God.
Yeah, false negatives, yes. But these are based on very small scales, a statistic, you know, because we need to test everybody to give you accurate 100% a statistic and percentage. But by the time being, yeah, there are false negatives, and as Andy asked, false positive tend to actually the percentage of false positives are less. But you know, to be honest with you, the false positives clinically are not die. Nobody is going to die if we gave them false positive. However, we can destroy their lives, you know, because they can be scared. They have to go and isolate and lock down themselves in their homes, or, you know, especially young kids like you guys, and you are probably far away from your families. So it's awful both way, you know. Clinically, as a clinician, I'm very worried about the false negatives, because we can send people to the public, we relax, we are negative. But on the other hand, false positives can make a lot of trouble for you guys. But either ways to me is dangerous and bad. However, false positives are not going to be life-threatening, but false negatives for sure. So the physicians, they know their homework very well. They know they have to treat everybody based on the clinical symptoms and clinical evaluation. These test reports are just helping them. Like if they are helping them, give them more confidences. But everything is 100% based on clinical correlations at this point. But maybe in 2 months, we can much higher test. I mean, you know, as I'm talking about, since you asked about false, sensitivity of test is giving us the confidence of false positives. And so the high sensitive means we have false, true for positive. I'm sorry, but I'm telling false. The more sensitive is more true positive, and the more specific is more true negative. So if we have a much higher percentage of sensitivity and specificities, we can be more confident about the reports. Means that it's 100%. That's our goal. 100% sensitive and 100% specific, which is not going to happen for sure because the nature of the virus, and this is not just for coronavirus, for flu test, we have lots, and there are lots of cross reactions because some of the false positives are back to the people who already infected with another coronaviruses. This is a novel coronavirus, but we have lots of coronavirus that are responsible for common colds, different kind of flu. So people are already immune about those kind of bugs, so they can cross-react with the test. So this is not just because of the quality of test, it's our bodies too that making all this antibody that confuse their because these companies are gathering all these different actually antigens to increase the quality of the test, but our body already had these antibodies and this is preventable. So it's very complicated, but I'm very hopeful that we can see much better testing quality in future, probably not too far from today.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Salami, if I may, I have follow-up question to Doctor.
Sure. Go ahead.
Dr. Shahsavari?
Azita is enough, yes. Shahsavari, yes.
Shahsavari, you said 30% of false negative, and then I didn't hear how many percentage false positive ones. And how dangerous, how dangerous to be treated as a false positive while they are not positive?
Yeah, they're not going to treat you with anything if you are not symptomatic. That's the good part of this. Even
the U positive?
Yeah.
False positive, but they're not going to treat you. Okay, that's good news.
No, this is based, as I told you, this is based on clinical symptoms and clinical diagnosis. So nobody is going to treat you if you are positive unless you show the symptoms. Even moderately symptomatic patient, we don't do anything for them. We send them home and just use their remedies. Just take zinc, vitamins, essential vitamins. Vitamin D deficiency is a big role of this. Unfortunately, all this dead. So take vitamins, supplements, but you don't need to start treatment. To be honest with you, there is no treatment. All these treatments are based on the symptoms. And there are just we don't have a targeting treatment. So we try not to treat anybody unless patient shows a critical symptoms. There is no treatment for sure for them. No, this is not going to put anybody in danger. We're not killing anybody.
Thank you for clarification. We know we are in good hands. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Shah. Thank you, Dr. Shahsavari. By the way, Dr. Bao, Andy is Italian as well. So if you wanted to say some Italian, you're free to go. Okay, so I have the next question for Dr. Bao. Dr. Bao, the question is asking, if you want to mention 3 most profitable industries that an entrepreneur can start right away during this time period, what are those?
I honestly find it difficult to answer because this actually is related to the comment that I made before, that it's related to the capacity of intercepting what's going to be the need in 1 year from now, not really observing today. It would be quite easy to say that everything that is related to service to people can be actually something that can provide a good value. It can be easy to say that everything that is related with dealing with the current uncertainty, for example, in making use of food, in particular quality food, etc., can be also a way to do it. And you cannot go to the restaurant, but the capacity of delivering high quality food can be also an idea. I think that this is a moment in which many are moving in the direction of finding possibility to replace activity that we do normally in person with activity that can be done online. And in that sense, I think that what you can actually do online better can be. I think that there is a lot of opportunity in the educational industry, for example, because I think that looking whatever university you want, starting from the biggest to the smallest, we are all facing the same problem of connecting with students, creating interactivity, creating occasion for dialogue. So that's definitely who's gonna be able to offer services that are better than Zoom will definitely have an opportunity in the market. And I would say that Zoom definitely was best compared to all the others in the market, but that doesn't make it perfect. Actually, I would say that we are still very far from what we would need to do online education. So in that sense, I would say that it's there are opportunities in this. On the other side, I can say that Zoom, of course, is making billions of dollars of turnover in this moment, and gonna be the first to make investment in that, but might actually also make investment in buying companies that are actually developing the tools that they're gonna use in the future. I remember some time ago talking with a vice president of Google that was telling me that we are not doing acquisition for buying ideas, but we are also doing acquisition for buying the right people. So at the end, it stands a lot in the quality of the human capital that in looking for acquisitions that can be actually the element where it's done investment. So it's really in the capacity of coming up with smart solutions for dealing with problems. And I would say this is actually at the base of any industry. It's not really something that is related to one specific industry sector, but the capacity of actually innovating. You were mentioning before this approach similar to Shoot Better. At the end is in the capacity of acting in a different way and be the fastest in moving. On the other side, being the first in moving might actually also be the first that is actually burned by the others, because the cost for innovation is very high. And it's always difficult to find that balance. And I will say that it's in the entrepreneurial capacity that the skill in dealing with this trade-off.
Very true. Thank you so much for your explanation. I appreciate that. The next question is from Anna Luna. So Anna, you may ask the question if you want for yourself.
Do you hear me well?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, perfect. Okay, thank you. First of all, you have all given amazing insights on how to act during this situation. So it was very informative. Thank you so much. I have a question for Dr. Shahsavari. Shahsavari, I don't know. Sorry about that. Okay.
That's the global panel. That's fine.
As you mentioned, people prefer not to go right now to hospitals in case they get the virus or even get nosocomial infections, right? So last week I assisted in oncology pharmacy practitioner symposium, and after that I am concerned that cancer detection has decreased, not because cancer has reduced, but because of the rescheduling of medical appointments, right? So in those times and knowing that cancer diagnosis is in primary status, increase the probability of patients' lives, do you think it would be feasible to develop a product that detects, for example, breast cancer, and be able to create and maintain this product as a future normality? And this product would be like, I'm imagining this product like a pregnancy test like product, like non-invasive, non-expensive, and that you can buy in any pharmacy stores. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Wonderful question, actually. As a hematologist, I was so heartbroken 2 months ago when we had to shut down our oncologist outpatient, because we were worried there was not enough personal protective equipment either for staffs or patients. So, and there are high-risk population, so we couldn't bring them here for chemo. However, we managed to send people to take care of them at homes, or radiology mammogram department. they're all almost shut down for 2 months. However, they are back to normal and they're all safe. I'm very confident to tell you guys hospitals probably are the safest places right now. It's probably safer than going to Costco because we know what we are doing here. We are taking care of everything. You know, there are lots of protocols. Every single day we have a new updates from our vice president, what we should do, everything. So I'm not worried about, I'm sure people are going to probably forget these fears and going back to some kind of new norms. However, your question is wonderful because as far as I know, LabCorp already had your idea. They sent the kit for coronavirus that you can swap your nasopharyngeal and they give you all this direction. You can do your own swab testing and send it back to LabCorp to perform this antigenic molecular testing to run your COVID test. So they already are, the industry is very smart, you know, and as you know, there are the kits for like colon cancer, there are a kit that it's 95% sensitive. You can send it to the patient, and most of people are, these days, they are preferring to perform it's expensive, maybe as much, maybe more expensive than colonoscopy. I'm not sure how much insurance charge people for colonoscopy these days, but that test is expensive. I think it's $500 or something, but people are preferring to perform that test at home and not going to have a almost non-invasive surgery like colonoscopy. And I'm pretty sure your idea is going to be a hot topic post-corona outbreak. I'm sure there are lots of, like telemedicine. We are getting used to telemedicine. My husband is a surgeon, actually. And then he has patients, they just call him. And they ask him what to do, and they have appointments via the phone. So things are going to be changed. I'm sure this in medicine, I can see a lot of changes. Like for me as a clinical hematologist, this is not something new, but it's a technology. They call it television, that I can sit at home and I don't need to come to the hospital or to the lab to look at my to look at the slide under the microscope. I can be at home and exactly look at the same cell with the maybe much better quality in my cell phone or my laptop. So these
there you go, opportunities for entrepreneurs, Dr. Shahsavari, right?
I want to tell you guys, I can give you lots of opportunity to improve your business because there are lots of ideas out there, and mostly come back to the health care. And I'm sure you guys are very smart, and you can, I don't say taking advantage because this is not taking advantage, but you can help us as a providers for front runner to take care of people and stop the flood of patients to the hospitals by keeping them at home instead of sending them to hospitals. So that's a great.
Yeah, there is an opportunity in the healthcare. Thank you so much, Dr. Shahsavari.
Sure, Anna. Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Anna. Thank you, Dr. Shahsavari. So we have a couple of minutes left. So I have 2-3 more questions as well. The next question goes to Mr. Vaziri. Mr. Vaziri, the question is asking, what type of business do you suggest to, if we want to open up our business, what type of business structure do you suggest? Do you suggest a sole proprietorship? Do you suggest LLC? Which one is better for a startup?
Sole proprietorship, because quite honestly, that's probably going to give you the easiest structure to begin. And then as you grow, LLC will become more important because as you grow, your company becomes more, I guess, vulnerable. But in the beginning, there's really no company. So it's more based off of you personally to be able to move forward. sole proprietorship. And I would say if I had to give anyone a business idea, because that's what I wanted to do before I got off this panel, I wanted to say that millionaires are made in real estate. Never forget that. So if any business you want to start up, go ahead. From a cash flow standpoint, that's what you do. You get a business started, but then you take that excess cash flow and you put it back. You put it into real estate, and real estate can be acquired by loans through businesses as well. People don't realize that. As a matter of fact, the SBA they actually have they have less requirements to qualify for commercial property. The qualification to purchase a commercial property through the SBA is less than buying a private home for your family. So I would say, if I were to give anybody listening, I would say, if you're going to start up a business, use it solely for the purpose of cash flow, but the true business and investment should be real estate and land only, or at least mostly.
Thank you so much for the suggestion. We'll take it. All right.
Actually, I appreciate your comment, because
Go ahead, Dr. Shahsavari.
No, I love his comment, because I think there is no millionaire in healthcare, and that is wonderful. You are so right.
Professor Salami, I think Mr. Malik has a question to the panel also.
Dr. Shem, I have put everyone's name on the list. So the next question would be from Subhash from Nepal.
First of all, I'm so glad to be a part of this initiative, and really it was such an insightful session with everyone. So I'll just dive into the question. So in everyone's point of view, what might or what can be the various challenges and problems for entrepreneurs or other major firms in the world, like the hospitals, airports, aviation, cafes, hotels, etc. Post-lockdown? Because you see that we're seeing a lot of things currently, even in Nepal, as everyone might have been aware about it. So yeah, that is my question. And the reason why I'm asking this is because I also am an entrepreneur and also am a student at King's College, Westcliff University, of course, which is affiliated. And it was a part of me wanting to ask the question to the panelists, in their point of view. So, yeah.
So are you directing the question specifically to someone?
This is for the entire panelists, the panelists that we have from their point of view.
Whoever wants to, go ahead. Dr. Bao, Dr. Shahsavari, Mr. Vaziri.
I think probably business part.
What was the direct question, actually?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I understood if there was a direct question.
What is exactly the question, Subhash?
Okay, so the question, I'll repeat the question again. That what can or what might be the various problems and challenges for entrepreneurs and other major firms
after the lockdown?
Yeah, the post-lockdown.
Don't do anything.
Thank you.
That will be that's the challenge and the problem, when you don't do anything, or maybe are so reserved and so scared that you become crippled and maybe don't invest. And don't go with, if you don't do anything, that's your biggest challenge, in my opinion.
Dr. Bao, do you have any opinion on that?
I think that the problem is during, it's not after. So the problem is actually to reach the after. So for entrepreneurs, is actually to finance the credit, to be able to keep on going the activity and be able to restart as soon as possible. So that's actually the only real difficulty that an entrepreneur has to deal today.
Thank you so much.
And
Dr.
I can just add something. I think, is there any after? That is my question. Because we might live with this virus forever, that we are living with flu or other viruses. And I think the most important, probably this is challenging because it's scary. However, I think it gives us to learn our mistakes from from this breakdown, like what happened to New York City. I'm talking about the my point of view. But if we learn how to compromise and how to deal with this fact and logic of the new world, there would be not many challenges. We can go back to new norm, but we have to learn it and we have to adopt it and we have to adjust our lives based on this new life with Corona, time of Corona. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shahsavari.
After right now.
True. So I'm
All right,
taking only two more questions.
All right, I'm sorry. Thank you so much for your valuable questions. As I'm also a student and I'm also an entrepreneur as well. So that was the question that I asked was the part of me asking, as I said before. So yeah, thank you so much for the question. And that answers my question. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. We are taking two more questions and the time is unfortunately up. So the next question goes, Malik actually you may ask the next question, and the last question would be Emilio.
Good afternoon, professors. First of all, I want to ask the medical practitioner,
Dr. Shahsavari.
The businessman, the billionaire that is championing the vaccines, which is Bill Gates. He's also championing depopulation. Now, and I understood that mRNA is not equal to vaccination.
No, I told you the new technology.
Hold on. Let me end.
Yeah.
I heard that mRNA is not equal to vaccination. mRNA is equal to genetic modification. So how can you convince me that he's not in the pathway of depopulation?
Actually, I cannot convince you. I really don't know about it. I told you it's promising.
Less traffic.
Yeah, it's encouraging, but yeah, it's convert immunity, and it's complete. Even people, they don't understand the technology behind of this vaccination. It was challenging for me because my major is not immunology, and I was reading about this. I need to learn about this vaccine. However, it looks like they're trying to train your immune system by transferring the nucleic acids from mRNA to replicate the more virus in your body, which is kind of dangerous. However, your body can respond to this shock or load of virus or mRNA and produce antibodies. So they start, and these trials, as you know, I'm not sure it's going to be effective or not. There are lots of controversial opinions about this. I keep my hope on a drug that can suppress the ACE2 receptors to prevent this virus to attack to all these organs. So I keep my hope to that drug more than the vaccine. However, this is a new thing, and we have to wait.
Okay, that means that if someone is afraid of taking the mRNA vaccination, that means the fear is valid, right?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Now, I want to ask the man in a blue T-shirt, the businessman. I have two questions.
I acting to Mr. Vaziri.
That's right.
All right. Questions for you, Mr. Vaziri.
I've got some, what's his name?
Malik. I have two questions for you. Number one.
Yes, sir.
As at 2019 fiscal year ended, United States of America debt to GDP is 79%. Now, USA is spending over $5 trillion. And their debt as at year ended 2019 is about $16.8 trillion. The $5 trillion they are spending now is a quarter, 25% of their debt of their debt to GDP. Who is borrowing them the money and at what interest rate?
China.
No.
And to be quite honest, at what interest rate? It's based at the lowest levels. I don't know the exact interest rate, but it's at the lowest levels in history. So don't ever be afraid of U.S. debt. At least from, I mean, just, I know it looks like it's a lot and everybody keeps complaining about the debt, but they've carried debt as long as history has been around.
With due respect, with due respect, sir, if you're telling me that I should not be afraid, that's not a business term, sir.
Yes, it is. Here's why. Because you have to understand there's a purpose to borrowing. So when I borrow, it's because I can borrow from you almost free. So why should I risk my own money? If I can borrow from you at a low or to zero cost, almost nothing, without risking my own money, why wouldn't I? So when I say don't fear debt,
I understand you're talking about leveraging, right?
Leveraging, right?
Yeah, before that's not apply here. My point is this: before the coronavirus pandemic, we are aware of the metrics. Now, my point is this: in this pandemic period, every industry is ruined, every country to themselves as it stands. Now, the question I'm asking is: I'm aware that America has some debt to China. My question is this: the debt to GDP ratio of the US is 79%, which is equal to $16.8 trillion. And now they are spending over $5 trillion, which is about 25%. And what is the growth rate? The growth rate before the pandemic, when the economy was okay, is about between 2 to 4%. So I'm thinking, who is giving them the money? Are they spending the money that they already borrowed to them? I don't understand the logic.
They're printing it. No, so that was a joke. But the reality is, one thing I will tell you is if you ever bet against the U.S., that's going to be the problem. So I hear what you're saying, and I think it's probably a little more in depth than what we even need to evaluate, to be quite honest. You're trying to do a debt to income analysis on a country that makes the rules. Does that make sense? So if I make the rules, the same metrics don't apply to me. And I say this from I guess you could say, a conspiracy level, right? In the sense that if you want to borrow money from a bank, they're going to say, hey, your debt to income, exactly what you said, your debt to income makes no sense. Your income is going to start to become less than your debt, and you're not going to be able to survive. But that same logic doesn't apply to, let's say, a U.S. government, which basically, as soon as let's say that becomes alarming, a debt to income level becomes alarming, they just change the rules, or they print more money, or just access money like if it's the bottomless pit. And again, I'll refer back to Warren Buffett one more time. He mentioned during the last crisis of 2008, or basically he said, never ever bet against America. And I don't mean that in a patriotic way or anything like that, but that's the truth, because we make the rules. Most governments can make their own rules.
Thank you so much, Mr. Vaziri. Thank you, Malik. Malik, we are out of the time. We have only one. We can take only one question. Thank you so much for asking the question. And Emilio, real quick, and then we will watch a quick video about this panel, and we will be more than happy if you guys, I will put the address wave@westcliff.edu there. So if there are any feedback or any opinion that you guys think we can make this panel ongoing and in a better way, please let us know. So that address that address will show up on the video. But Emilio, go ahead for the last question.
All right. I want to say thank you to everybody, to Westcliff staff, and all of you guys speakers. And I have a couple of questions to Mr. Vaziri. I'm an international student myself from Spain, and I'm planning on creating an LLC with somebody from Spain and opening a company here in California. So I want to know your input in this. You think it's a smart idea to start in California? Because it's in the business plan, we're creating a business plan right now. We want to start the company next summer, not this summer, the next year. So what is your input about this? Do you think it's a smart idea, or should first start in Spain and then come here?
Wow. So that's probably that's too specific in general, but I can tell you obviously West Coast California is more internet based, or as we all know, Silicon Valley and so on and so on. So the startups in California can immediately jump based off of that. You see the internet companies and so on.
Mm-hmm.
But go on the East Coast, it's more of a government contracting, defense contracting, and that kind of thing. So depending on the type of business you're going to be doing, I suppose that would determine where you would go.
Right.
Obviously, factory type business and factory type business, I would go Midwest. If it's internet type business and boom, those kind of .com booms, .com businesses, I would do on the West Coast. And I would do, if you're into any type of, let's say, government contracting, that kind of thing, more, I guess you could say, in-depth businesses like government contracting, I suppose, on the East Coast. So I don't know, that's probably a general answer, but that's not without getting too specific. Yeah.
So our idea is to create hype for like 6 months before, creating our social media, doing a lot of hype, reaching out a lot of
California.
People. Okay. Perfect. And then that's why I plan.
Plus it's better weather.
Right. And then before creating the LLC, I talked to a couple of entrepreneurs, and they told me to go into LegalZoom and do all the steps through that. Is that a good idea, or
no? Go hire an accountant.
Okay. You said, can you spell that for me?
Hire an accountant.
Okay.
So here's what I'll tell you. I am very much against doing things myself that I don't have experience in. And so in other words, you hire a lawyer to represent you in court. You hire an accountant to handle your accounting and your taxes. And so I'll tell you this, when you ask advice from people regarding the details of whatever it is you're looking for, and if they aren't part of that, professionally part of that industry, you're probably just going to get this type of general answer, like go to LegalZoom, go to this, go to that. But to be honest, if you're a real company and you want to do well, what I found out is just hire the guy that does it well, the professional, right? The accountant. And that's really what I would do.
You need to put money in the table for that. That's the problem.
No, you don't. Not really. What is money? When I tell you hire an accountant, you're talking about registering your company. You're talking about basic stuff. So you go to if you're asking a question whether you should be an LLC or sole proprietor, that kind of thing. If you go to an accountant and say, this is what I plan to do, what should I do? He'll give you sort of the risks and rewards with each registration, right? The LLC or sole proprietorship. But that's where I would go. Absolutely. Okay. You don't need money for that. It's a few $100s.
Okay, one last question. We are thinking about getting investors and getting maybe loans in the future, but you said that we need experience, we need a proof of income. So we were thinking about getting all these even before going to the market. That's something that is not possible, right?
No. So the industry that you're going into, you must know something about it.
Yes.
Okay, so can you document it?
But we haven't even started the company, so we can sell anything.
I'm not talking about this company specifically, but I'm talking about the thing that you're going to go start up. It has to come from some idea that you have because you have some experience, whether it's school, whether it's licensing, whether it's whatever. It doesn't have to be specifically what you're doing, but just in the industry of what you've done. Right. So banks and investors are the same. So when you sit in front of an investor and you go, hey, I'm thinking to do this, but I have no experience, he's going to say, sorry, I'm not interested. You're right. So it's the same as the banks. They want to see, okay, your idea's good, but do you have experience doing it? And if you can show some relatability in the past, whether it's school or whatever else you've done to this, then that's the experience.
Got it. Okay.
And,
so it doesn't have to be like, I don't know, X thousand of money in revenue. No, it has to be something that you.
So your business plan will tell you what the future is, right?
Right.
Your business plan tells me what your potential to make in the future is, and your experience tells me whether you're telling the truth or not.
Right.
Right. So or your education tells me whether you're telling the truth or not. right? So that's how it works. Business plan tell the future of what you're going to make. And I would hire somebody to do a business plan too. I would get away from LegalZoom.
Okay.
That's what I would do. Just because, like I said, let the guy, and I know you keep saying about the money, but these are the minimal costs of setting up that foundation. Right. So I found every time I've saved $1, it's cost me 10.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the explanation and the question. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. The first global panel, Westcliff University. David, you have something to say?
No, I just want to say that Professor Salami actually made that video by himself, so great job there. Yeah, but I also want to thank professors, thanks Professor Salami for hosting this event. I appreciate all the speakers for attending and all the questions from the audience as well. I really appreciate everybody joining. It's been a good first event.
By the way, one last thing, I want to say one thing, Professor Salami. This is probably one of the most innovative things that I've seen. All right, because you get the perspective of a global view here. There's certain people, so I may be stealing this idea and I may be introducing it to some folks on the East Coast, just so you know. And I'm not doing it. So I don't know.
Thank you so much. You will use your experiences, video. Dr. Shahsavari, Mr. Vaziri, and Dr. Bao. Thank you so much one more time for joining Westcliff University, and thank you everyone for joining our first panel. Wave panel in Westcliff University. Wish you all the best for the rest of your night and day.
Thank you all.
Keep contact.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. To us.
Bye-bye.
Good day. Good day.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.